New York City is about real estate. To me, this is the baseball game here. And without real estate working the way it needs to work and wants to work, nobody else will work.
Hey BK with Ofer Cohen.
Why are you a lobbyist?
Because nobody else was doing this shit. Excuse me.
That's Jacqui Williams, advocate and real estate lobbyist. In the last 2 decades, Jacqui has been behind the scenes of some of Brooklyn's biggest real estate projects.
You know, I used to be the director of economic development for the Brooklyn Chamber of Commerce and helped create it and or expounded on their programming. The lobbyist for the chamber recruited me. I didn't know what it was, and when she approached me, I was like, all you want me to do is take this information, go tell these people why they should be doing it, and ask them for money. Sound like a plan for me. Yeah, it makes sense.
So you fell into it.
I fell into it, and then I learned how I can use it as a tool to affect things that I care about, but also happen to get paid from it.
You found yourself in a situation where you realized you suddenly have the power.
Right, especially because there are about 12,000 registered lobbyists in the state of New York. Of the 12,000 registered lobbyists, there are only 17 of color. Of the 17 of color, there are only 7 of us that own. And this phenomenon of people of color being included, I was the first that started lobbying on business matters when I got recruited to be a lobbyist, and that was 2003.
Let's backtrack a second.
Mm-hmm.
Where did you grow up?
Chicago.
And how did you find yourself in New York?
After I got out of the military, I was in the Navy.
How did you find yourself in the Navy?
Being resentful towards my mother. She wanted me to go to Tulane, and at the party for me graduating high school, but my mom was getting ready to announce college. I was like, hold up. The Uncle Sam will be here in the morning at 4:30 to pick me up. I'm leaving. I'm going to the Navy. She had a heart attack.
And so are you happy about that choice?
Yeah, it's probably one of the best things I ever did. It gave me structure. It taught me discipline. It also prepared me for how I would be treated in the regular world. I was one of 76 women in the entire Navy that was a torpedoes mate. That's like pretty much the rest of the world once you get out in private sector. When I got out, I went home to Chicago. My mom and I still did not see eye to eye. I started working construction because I operated cranes in the military. And my mom and I didn't get along. And I decided I was going to come to New York and visit my Aunt Sarah. She lived in the housing development. You know, Chicago is very segregated.
Right.
So I had never seen, and I'm an adult after serving my country, had never seen Black people and Spanish people live on the same floor, let alone in the same building. Right. New York blew my mind with that.
But it still felt significantly less segregated than where you grew up.
Yeah.
Wow.
I thought when I first got here, I had never seen Hasidic Jews before. I didn't even know what that was.
Right. When you're saying it blew your mind, like, what did you feel?
It scared me to death. I'm like, where are these? I had never seen Black people that spoke with accents of other than Africans. So to me,
right.
Trinidadians, Jamaicans, I've never had been exposed to that. This is not the norm. This is the petri dish for the world.
So initially you were intimidated by that?
Very much so. I stayed with my aunt in Marlborough houses and Coney Island. She put me out, and I went to the homeless shelter after my first month here.
Oh.
And I went to the homeless shelter on 23rd Street in Manhattan. And They stole all my papers. They beat me up. I was sexually assaulted really bad. And I left and walked from 23rd Street in Manhattan until I saw black people. And unbeknownst to me, that was Harlem. And so I walked to 119th. And because I was in the military, my state of mind is I'm going to be all right. It's going to work itself out. Well, I end up finding a spot on the ground on 119th between 5th and Lenox, between two tenement buildings, choosing between, and had cardboard boxes and milk cartons.
That sounds like a pretty low point in your life.
It was very much so.
Sort of being in the army.
Right, and coming from somewhere that would be viewed as somewhat middle class. So I used to walk to welfare every day. I would go, fill out all the paperwork, sign up for a jobs program, do my resume, the whole 9 yards. I'm pretty skilled. I couldn't get a job. Went back to the welfare, and it was this lady named Miss Jones. She did like the intake. And after seeing me for about a week or two, she would give me fruit. Because I only had my savings was gone. One day I was regurgitating, and she was like, "What's wrong with you?" I was like, "I don't know." Find out from the sexual assault, I end up getting pregnant. So with that being said, she broke her work rules and let me stay at her home. And her best friend lived up the hallway, and she worked for the State University of New York Educational Opportunity Program, EOP. They connected me with a place called Inwood House in Manhattan, which was a program for unwed teens, and I chose adoption. So I was able to give the child up for adoption because I was going to take care of a child. I didn't have a roof over my head. And after I took care of, dealt with that, I was able to get into the State University of New York at Farmingdale because that was the only place where they had dorms for people over 21. And so they got me in, and ergo, I started turning into an advocate. When I first got there at the school, Governor Cuomo, the father, was trying to put guns on campus. And I organized the students. I'm like, what does campus police need guns for? What is that about? And most of the students that lived in the dorms happened to be black and brown from the 5 boroughs.
And how do you find yourself through this path, sort of in the midst of, lobbying for real estate interests and organizations, both private and public?
It's interesting because to go from living on the street after serving my country to representing the interests of some of the most powerful people in not only New York, but in the world, I, better than anybody else, can advise them on the behavior in which to accomplish the things they want to get done and what they should not be doing as a person that has been impacted by that. And they can either choose to take my advice or not. And I'm very candid, as you can see.
Right.
I think that works for me.
So when do they come to you, those very, very powerful people and organizations?
When they need to either get a rezoning, meaning go through a city system where I call it a 9-month birthing process. It takes 3 trimesters to bring a child into the world. It's at a minimum, once you turn your application in for rezoning, it's going to take us 3 trimesters for the baby to be born, i.e. the building.
So you've been hired by real estate developers to help convince the community or the councilman?
The community, the council, the administration, city planning, every level that you need in order to go through a process of a rezoning. I have been before it or advised the client and its colleagues or investors what you need to do and how you should do it and who we should go get to support it, why it would be in their interest to support it. And I've been on the other side where I've been hired to stop people from building things.
But you have to, it sounds to me like, given your background, that you have to believe. I mean, yes, you have to make a living, but you have to believe in the cause or the project or the change that you're trying to help.
Right. And I don't represent anything that I don't believe in.
So how do you feel about, just in general, the power of lobbyists in the real estate industry in New York? I mean, it's over $100 million reportedly spent on real estate lobbying.
New York City is about real estate. To me, this is the baseball game here. And without real estate working the way it needs to work and wants to work, nobody else will work. Like a lot of these real estate organizations been around since the 1800s. My people were slaves when they were starting organizations about real estate. Real estate is not to be toyed with here. It needs to be lobbied. It has to. And just like you have people for real estate transactions that lobby that, there are people who are against it.
Right.
A lot of them that are, I find them to be selfish. All of a sudden you hear and you don't want somebody to build X, Y, and Z. Why?
You essentially see your work, even when you work for the real estate interest, you see your work as working for the people.
I do both. I help my client get what they need and want for their industry. And in those elements that I can extract for people who need tools and resources and access to things, I'm going to extract that. It takes a long time to convince non-people of color that it's okay to be user-friendly and to create pathways to success for other people.
You just walked us through sort of the lowest point that, I can't even imagine. The lowest point in anyone's life. Walk me through some of the highest points in your career in contrast to that. Where do you feel really, really proud
Well, I became proud when I first started working for Joni Oswine. How many black people can say that they're a lobbyist? I never met one of those before. And the communities of color, they're like, what do you mean, a pharmacist? And how I explained it to a lot of people who don't have access to that information. I'm a drug dealer, and my drug of choice is information and power, and that's what I sell it. And I give advice, and I teach them how to use the drug.
Right.
And I stand on the corner in the lobby in government, and that's what I do. And on the behalf of the people I represent.
Was there one project or one assignment that you worked on that when the deal got done or when the project got built, you felt like
it was real? IKEA.
Interesting.
That I broke my chops on that. It took us 2 years to get that done. I ride past that every time, and I go in there. I like these people. I have no idea.
Yeah, and I think it's the highest grossing IKEA in the country.
In addition to, it was the first big box
in Brooklyn.
It cracked open that door.
Your ability to make sure that the project takes care of the local community in terms of providing jobs was
I didn't know if it was real. Are they telling me the truth? I know what structures they're allowing me to put in place. I know they're, yes, Jacqui, we're going to do it. I know what I'm reading on paper, but to see it become real is unbelievable.
Big. How many jobs are there?
Like 300 or so for full time. I don't even remember the numbers because IKEA has been open over 10 years. It take you at least 3 to go through the process. But then that's where I got to learn how the system works. It wasn't just about getting the rezoning. It was about the teams of professionals that exist in the city that do shuttle to diplomacy to get projects done. Then I got to learn the system.
It still is a very meaningful project.
Yes.
In Brooklyn.
Yes, it is. I'm very blessed to be able to have the opportunity to even be exposed. I live in from going from homeless on the street, and now I live in Dumbo.
Oh, amazing.
Right. My business is in Dumbo. Who does that? You know,
Right.
I'm about to start the Block Association. The crazy black girl that used to be homeless on the street is getting ready to start.
And Dumbo is only the most expensive neighborhood in Brooklyn right now.
That's what they say. And with that being said, you know, I experience the Trump-ish behavior from everyday white people.
Every business meeting, I'm sure you're not only the only woman, but definitely the only woman of color.
Right. And I go to the events. It's like me, a half a bag of pepper, and a whole ton of salt. I used to do no press or radio or podcast, nothing. And I decided in 2018 that it was time for me to have a discussion about it, you know, and start sharing about what my experiences have been and my thought process. I'm pretty bright. I could look around the city and see where my advice and counsel has created a lot of opportunity. I've made a lot of people a lot of money.
You're behind the scenes a lot.
Right.
But now you feel like you want to be a little bit more upfront.
Well, they need to know that it's this wonderful veteran that happens to be a woman, that happens to be black, that's behind the scenes helping make some of these great things happen.
I agree.
You know, shame on me for being afraid to expose it. And then I run into you.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Great. Well, thank you so much, Jacqui.
All right. Thank you.
Really
Ofer.
appreciate it.
Good to see you.
I'm Ofer Cohen. This is Hey BK, the podcast about the people behind the Brooklyn transformation. You can rate and subscribe to all of our episodes wherever you get your podcast. Thanks for listening.